Welcome in, Loons fans, to another edition of the Matchday Preview. Jonathan Harrison here, joined once again by Manny Lagos, sporting his Kicks-inspired Loons gear. Manny, how you doing on this Thursday post-All-Star game?
Yeah, you know what? I did think about this sweatshirt today because it was 11 out of 10 branding initiative last week. Unbelievable. The feedback, so much credit to our staff, both the creative side and the branding and also the storytelling. Because I was like a little kid. I'm wearing this and I get my Kicks vibes in Minnesota. I'm not, 50s Manny. I'm like 9-year-old Manny. Think about Ace Nestlingwe, Alan Willis, Alan Merrick, Steve Litt. So super excited to wear this in the show today. It was a huge success. I think everything pretty much sold out at the stadium, which is awesome. So as much as we're going to talk about Soccer Day and this great guest we have, I do think the all-star for the club in the last week has been this awesome heritage jersey and branding of all the gear.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm in love with the jersey. The more I see it, the more I see all the apparel that goes along with it. But as you said, we've got a special guest today. I'm sure if you clicked on the episode and you started listening, you've already seen the name pop up in the info feed on the episode. But this is one of our most requested guests. He's one of the most requested commentators from Apple TV to call a Loons game, but it's been a while since he's been on a Loons game. Welcome in Callum Williams, former TV voice of Minnesota United, now TV voice for Apple TV and their coverage of Major League Soccer. Cal, how you doing? Been a long time, bud.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. It has been far too long, but lovely to see you both again, and looking forward to chatting some football with you for sure.
What's been new in your life since you departed Minnesota United and went to the big time, went to MLS? We haven't seen you for a while. We've kept up with you on social media. You and I text and chat every once in a while. But what's new in your life since moving up to MLS and moving up to the Apple TV deal?
Oh, how long have we got? Honestly, I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, a friend of mine in Minnesota. The time in Minnesota that my wife and I had, were some of the most happiest memories we will ever have, and it's a place that really, really means a lot to us, and we miss it dearly. But honestly, it does feel like a different life. It feels like an eternity ago, and it's only really been 2.5 years, 3 years. So yeah, since then, Johnny, we've gone and had ourselves 2 kids, which has its challenges, but it's great fun. We moved to Brooklyn, New York, which, same vein, has its challenges, but is amazing. And yeah, just keeping busy on the work front, as you mentioned. Majority of the gigs now are with Apple TV, which is great fun. The league are doing a tremendous job in showcasing a league that I think we can all agree just gets better and better every year. Lots of other work for me as well, elsewhere on different platforms, different productions within the US, outside the US. It's been a very busy time. So the summer was really busy with commentary duties on the Club World Cup, which was great fun. DAZN, I thought, did a tremendous job. TNT were wonderful. And I had a little bit of quiet time afterwards. I chose to sort of just take a step back because we have the chaos of Leagues Cup around the corner as well. So just having one game a week this week has been quite nice, actually. I remember the last time that was the case. So,
all right, Cal, we can go in a lot of different directions. I'm going to take Minnesota out of the equation. You cannot talk about Allianz Field. Favorite stadium to call a game besides Minnesota?
Besides Allianz, because Allianz for me is still the best. Wow. I think from an atmospheric point of view, Manny, I think... I don't think many would disagree that Portland Timbers is the best from an atmospheric perspective. I think that's a tremendous example of what it can be, what MLS can be.
Kind of apropos, by the way, later in the show today. So that's a good one. So
there we go. Okay. It's just tremendous. It has culture, character, charisma. It's tremendous. It really is. But from a facilities perspective, I think right now, Cincinnati is probably the best. And I've been to all of them now, apart from the new Columbus one. I have Columbus in Leagues Cup next week, which is crazy to think about. Leagues Cup is here next week, so that'll be my first trip to Columbus, his new stadium. But I've done the rest of them, and I think apart from Allianz, I think Cincinnati is probably the best.
It's interesting. They followed us. I think they were the next stadium in the league after ours. So probably some similarities there. What Club World Cup, real quick? What was your favorite games that you called for that?
There was a really entertaining game. It was the final day of the group stages when, people have to win. You start understanding certain scenarios. I did Atletico Madrid against Botafogo, and Atletico Madrid knew they had to score. I think it was 3 at the time, because in the other game in the group, Seattle were losing to Paris Saint-Germain, and Atletico Madrid knew they had to get a certain amount of goals. And so they were just continuously peppering the Botafogo goal. The Botafogo backline did so well. They were so resilient. Jair Cunha, who is a big target and has been a big target for the Premier League, was wonderful. I think he's just moved to Nottingham Forest, I think, or was about to anyway. So it was great to see that. And that one was really good. I really enjoyed, I did 2 Al Hilal games as well, which was interesting. I hadn't watched too much Saudi Pro League prior to the tournaments. And whilst you always expect the big stars to shine, Mitrovic was injured, but the likes of Ruben Neves and Joao Cancelo and what have you were wonderful. But it's great to see some of the younger Saudi players step up. And there's a legend called Salem Al Dawsari who has been at Al Hilal for nearly 15 years now. And he's 33, 34, so coming towards the end of his career, but was as good as anybody for Al Hilal. And if he was, maybe 10 years younger, I would suggest maybe move to Europe there for him, because he was outstanding. And so that was great fun. Flamengo as well. I think you guys know I really enjoy, outside of MLS, my footballing passions away from English football are South American football and French football. And it was great to do some of the Brazilian teams. I was fortunate to, as I mentioned, do Botafogo, the champions of the Libertadores. But I got to do 2 Flamengo games as well. And Flamengo, for me, are the best side in Brazil at the moment. And they were very, very assertive. They were very convincing. So doesn't really answer your question, but there was a handful that I really enjoyed.
No, I like it. I mean, Jonathan knows this. I went to one game. I went to Boca Bayern. And I came back with my eyes open to that was probably the best U.S. sporting event live atmosphere I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah. And
that's great.
I mean, it was all Boca fans, by the way. So,
for sure, yeah. But this is the interesting thing about it. There were so many coming into the tournament that, we're aware of the name Boca Juniors and Flamengo, Palmeiras, what have you, River Plate. But it was the first time so many actually saw what it means to support those football clubs.
Correct.
And we don't realise, because I think a lot of it is because there's not a lot available in English language and the time difference and whatnot. We are not exposed to South American football as much as we really should be in North America. And maybe that's because of television partners and distributions, and that's a separate conversation for another day. But it's it is, in my opinion, South American football is some of the most entertaining football you will see anywhere in the world. And I think we got a glimpse, at least I hope people got a glimpse of what these clubs mean to these people. And
I think they got a glimpse. I told Jonathan that, from my perspective, the ability to play North American and probably mostly the big European, more than North American clubs by these South American clubs, and their fans to have ability to support their clubs in real meaningful games, not friendlies, not even even national team non-World Cup years. I think this will be potentially as big as the World Cup or second ahead of Euros and ahead of Champions League. I just think it's going to be huge. And give it about 12 to 15 years. I just looking at, and then the flip side of the clubs get a lot of money. So unlike the World Cup, the clubs don't get anything. The clubs will push this up to the top of the list because they actually need the revenue.
Yeah.
So I think it's a double kind of whammy. I think it's going to become one of, if not around the World Cup level of fandom in the future.
I don't disagree that it's going to be a juggernaut if we just give it time, and that's the one thing we have to do is just give it time, because it was clear that FIFA, I think, made some mistakes in certain areas, putting certain teams in certain markets and what have you. And I just hope that they learn from that ahead of the big one next year. But I would agree there was such a feeling of the world game being in North America, all the games that I did anyway, and it was tremendous to see so many fans. I was walking through Times Square just before the tournament started. So my opening game was Flamengo against Esperance, and Esperance are the champions of Tunisia, for those unaware. And I'd never seen them play before, so that was a great introduction to Northern African football. But the reason I bring that up is because I just got done doing a commentary, an NWSL commentary off Tube in Manhattan, and I was walking over to the subway through just off of Times Square, not quite in Times Square, because I try and avoid that place. But it was tremendous to see legitimately thousands of people, and not just Flamengo, but Esperance fans as well, mingling, having a good time with each other. And that's when it really hit me sort of how big this tournament could be. And especially if you have it in this country as well, I think there's massive potential. And I would agree. I think at some point, UEFA might have to look at it and think, okay, we need to do something with the Champions League to compete with it. I think right now that from a footballing purist perspective, the Champions League...
Cal, what does UEFA do? They can't steal the South American players. They can't steal the South American teams and put it in UEFA. So I think UEFA, like I said, will drop down a little bit in the pecking order, is my personal take, because the secret sauce is the South American teams. Like it's similar to the World Cup. Like, I know you're from Europe, so you want it to be about Europe, but I think the story was that it was obviously about Europe still being the pinnacle, but it was about the other clubs around the world interacting in a very genuine, authentic way with Europe. So I don't think UEFA is going to be able to solve this. I think it's going to be a FIFA-driven event in the future.
I agree. I'm not entirely sure there's an answer on how UEFA are going to resolve anything, but I think they will be worried at some point for sure if it carries on this trajectory that we're suggesting. But look, by
the way, not that FIFA can solve it. I've always been joking. I thought it was a money grab. It probably was, but it hit. Like it hit because I didn't see the purview of how important it was for teams around the world to have an opportunity to play the best and the club level. Obviously, we get to do it in the World Cup, and we feel that the kind of energy of Cameroon against Argentina, et cetera. I think that's why this has become so big as well, is because it's the energy of these clubs that won their championships around the world getting to play the best in Europe.
I would agree. And also, I know maybe you and I have spoken about this before, Manny. I know Johnny and I certainly have in the brew hall afterwards. We have spoken about at some point it would be great to mix North and South America and have a Copa Libertadores type tournament, right? It'd be great. And Leagues Cup maybe is that, and we don't know. Maybe
League Cup could build into some type of Maybe you take 5 to 10 teams from South America and add them to the.
I totally agree, but I think this was a good example of what potentially we could see, and just the only major difference is you added the UEFA teams and whatnot, and so look, we'll wait and see. But all in all, it was tremendous, and really looking forward to the next one.
Nice. Jonathan, no, you didn't have any comments. I apologize. Callum,
I was enjoying the conversation. I liked where that conversation was going. I didn't need to interrupt it. We've got plenty on the docket, so we'll jump into it. Today, as of recording, the summer transfer window is opening, so we'll kind of go in reverse chronological order here of things on our guide before to talk about before we get into the Minnesota matches. We'll start off with the summer transfer window. A flurry of moves for Minnesota, Manny. Vesselspiel going out on loan to Shelburne FC in the Irish Premier League. Sammy Shashua going on loan to Birmingham FC. Devin Padelford and Songbin Jong going to St. Louis City FC. One in a cash for move and then the other in a loan. Devin in a loan. Songbin sold to St. Louis. Your thoughts on these moves, Manny? Because I think they're very interesting. It shows the continued willingness to loan out some of these players that we didn't really see that kind of a move in the past from the club, of loaning players out and getting these guys more consistent playing time at good levels of soccer. So I like all these moves. I think they're very interesting. Sad to see Songbin go. Good move for him though to get consistent playing time in a club that will desperately need him in the attack.
Yeah, I mean, we'll start with Sangbin. Obviously, we wish him the best of luck. I think sometimes, there's the right environment, right culture, right time and place. He's still a young and up-and-coming player. He's got incredible explosiveness, incredible speed, incredible technical ability. I still think he's growing into the kind of cerebral side of seeing how the game completely operates and how he can take his skill set and elevate a team, whether it's on defense or offense. And he showed glimmers of it with us, and he shows that he's got amazing potential, and hopefully a new environment will help kind of continue to tap into the qualities that he has and grow. So, but I think you just mentioned it. That's one where we sold, and that's one where, the club has to say we have to move on from. We believe, we can have a different direction, and that's better for Sangbin. The other guys in different ways are important for the club to really continue to understand this big world of soccer. We have valuable assets that we really love, and MLS is a very competitive week in, week out league. You can only get so many minutes. And so we have to think about how are we going to develop these guys, particularly in Minnesota, where we don't have a lot of USL teams. We don't have a lot of competition in and around the Twin Cities, so they can even play a game here or there and then come back and train with the first team. So I think the staff has done a great job now of really building an alignment of global connections and networking to get guys out into environments to see if they can develop for the good of Minnesota United in the future. And super excited about Devin in St. Louis. Devin's obviously crazy athletic, crazy exploding into becoming a great player. I think that's going to be a great environment for him. Wessel, I think his first game is in Azerbaijan and on the border of Iran. That'll be an amazing kind of experience and growth for him. And I'm excited. Like I said, that's just one part of the transfer window. But the activity to me right now feels really good because we're getting guys in good environments. And then at the same time, we're also saying goodbye to a player that just didn't quite work here. And we had to be honest about that.
And now's the part of the show where I try and get you in trouble, Manny. A lot of players on the outgoing, incoming. Any hints, any moves that we should?
I would say this. It is really fun to see the challenges when you're playing really well. How do you help your roster and what you need to do? And I hope all our fans are thinking about and debating that, because it's a good debate. On this show, obviously, I think, you look at how good we are with our center backs and how deep we are. I don't think that's an area that people will really look at. The midfield, we've been solid and really good, but I think we're always going to want to get better. And I think that's an area where we definitely want to probably look at and say, hey, how can we get more depth, or how can we get a different style of player than we currently have? And then I always think no matter what, every transfer window, you're going to always want to look for speed wide, whether we're playing our wing backs in a 3-5-2 or the 4-5-1, which have kind of been our most preferred systems. I'm sorry, 5-4-1. I think we're always going to look for kind of value there. So, but it's a fun window because, in some ways we know we need to add, but we don't want to add in a way that takes away from how great this team's been up to this point in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. As the transfer window goes along, we get rumors popping up. And Cal, the big one yesterday, LAFC potentially in on Sonny from Tottenham. That would be a blockbuster move. I know he's getting up there in age. He's had some injuries over the past couple of years, but that's a name, and that's a team that kind of feel like they fit together with the kind of moves that LAFC generally tend to make.
Game-changing move, mate, if it does happen. I know this is a player that Major League Soccer has wanted in the league for a while now. I know there was an attempt made to try and bring him over just before the Apple TV deal was put together. I think the Asian market is a market that the league wants to try and target moving forwards. And so who better to go and get than Son Heung-min? He would be, from a marketing perspective, a massive addition, but simply from a footballing perspective, would instantly be one of the best players in Major League Soccer. And so would be great, would be a really good addition, and let's hope it happens. But just going back to the previous point that you mentioned about Minnesota United and some of the players that are going out on loan in particular, though, Johnny, I've done a handful of Red Bull New York games over the course of the last 2.5 years. And there was one game I did earlier this year at Sports Illustrated Stadium, and the goalkeeper was a chap called AJ Marcucci, who, young boy from, I think, Western Pennsylvania or something along those lines, got drafted and was playing a lot for Red Bull 2. And I think he played over 60 times for Red Bull 2 or something. In the last 6 months of 2024, he went out on loan and played, he played a load of games. He played about 15 games or so in 6 months. For a team in the top flight of Finland. Now, not necessarily a a level above Major League Soccer or anything like that, but for a player who in his early 20s, particularly a goalkeeper, it was a tremendous experience for him. And I spoke to the manager at Red Bull, Sandor Schwarz, who said, and I think there is something to be said about this, and I bring this up because of one of the points Manny brought up. It's all good and well playing for Red Bull 2. It's all good and well playing for Minnesota United 2. Certainly when you're in a certain stage of your career, because it gives you opportunity to get minutes and to play meaningful football. And not that youth football isn't meaningful, but it's a chance to play against men and experienced players. But there is something to be said when you move away from the comfort blanket of the football club and you go out and you have a life experience as well as a footballing experience. And so it's interesting, some of the players that you mentioned that are going out on loan and where they're going out on loan to. I am all for player developments and the way that we do things here in the US and Canada. MNUFC 2 has been tremendous for the football club. But I don't think there's anything wrong, and I think there's something to be said about going on loan and testing yourself somewhere away from what I'm assuming is a comfort blanket for a lot of those players just playing at MNUFC 2 up in Blaine and going home to your own apartments and what have you. So I'm excited to see all those players that have gone out on loan and see how they develop over the course of the next 6 months.
I appreciate that, guy. I think that's a good points. Very good points.
Yeah, some big growing chances, growing moments for guys like Spiel and Devin, who the club certainly have an eye on for the future. Devin, young homegrown kid, got a lot of minutes last year, but has kind of dropped down the pecking order because of the excellent play of Josef Rosales and the even more excellent play of Anthony Markanich this season.
I would even say he's kind of, I still, again, the fun debate, I still like him as potentially a left center back.
Yeah.
He's, you've got Romero and Dugan who have been unbelievable. Like I said,
good luck displacing either of those two.
Right. And so I think it's great that we get him out on loan and again, continue that development pathway in different areas. And I think Cal made a good point. I really like the second team because it's just one of many environments that are important at different stages of people's careers. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, everybody develops in different ways in different stages in their journey as a soccer player to get to the highest level that they think they can get to. So having these different types of environments is incredibly important. And particularly having the second team is so important. Like, look at all the academy kids now that are starting to really make an impact. And then that will just be a trajectory, hopefully made to the first team, but it might be somewhere else than the first team. So,
yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see some of these moves as they come in over the next couple months. Plenty to talk about in that department, but we're a little bit behind schedule, so I'm going to speed us up.
It's Cal's fault, not mine.
It's all right.
By the way, you're right. That would be an amazing. If the LAFC got some, that would be a really big time signing. Obviously, it affects our West. It's that would right away change the dynamics of the West, I believe. So.
If you're looking to hone your skills on the pitch, Minnesota United has your back. Our youth clinics and development camps range from goalkeeper training to academy tryout preparation to good old-fashioned summer camps. We've got something for athletes of all ages and skill levels. Check out our camp offerings at MNUFC.com. And I know there's obviously the big move of Rodrigo de Paul going to Inter Miami, and we could discuss that all day long, but I want to get to the All-Star game. 3-1 win for the MLS All-Stars over Liga MX All-Stars. Some great goals here. Serge getting a goal in the 28th minute, Ty Baribo in the 51st minute, so two of the top goal scorers in the league scoring to give, and Brian White scoring in the 80th minute to give MLS a big bounce-back win after losing last year. But that Mora goal, the 16-year-old Mexican continuing to rise, his stock is just continuing to skyrocket, Manny. What a goal from him. What a performance from him. What a last couple months for this young kid who is clearly just on a rocket ship at this point.
Yeah, super fun. You could see the confidence, and you could see, like, right when he came in, he actually had another chance where he got knocked down, kept it up, and just missed the shot. But I'm going to go back, Jonathan, and just talk about how, pure athleticism and individual 1v1. Denny Bouanga has been unbelievable the last couple of weeks. We just got to see him live here in Minnesota, kind of create the cross for the PK that, had us lose 1-0. But long story short, I thought that was the difference. They both teams were kind of cagey. It was kind of like a lot of fouls, which to me is a normal Mexico versus U.S. kind of situation. Then maybe the Mexican All-Stars took over the game a little bit, and next thing you know, he just carves them, runs through the team, and just opens them up. Great chance, gets it back, great composure. And then, he decides he's not always a great assist man. That's why I thought it was a really impressive play. He decides to kind of cross the ball to a guy in this league who's been lights out at heading. Like Sturridge is just, you put the ball anywhere within like a couple yards of his head in the box. He's been great. And so I think Bouanga turned that game on its head personally and kind of pushed the All-Stars to start to say, hey, we can win this.
That was an incredible run by Bouanga. Cal.
By the way, it was really, really by Sergio Ramos, too. I felt like Sergio Ramos looked really slow on that play, personally.
You're saying what, 29, 30-year-old Denny Bouanga putting on his burners, outrunning a 39-year-old Sergio Ramos wasn't going to happen? That was.
I felt like Ramos hesitated for a second. Like, should I crush him and get a red card? Or should I think he made the right choice.
I mean, would it really be a game if Sergio Ramos didn't get a red card, Cal?
If it wouldn't be a game if he wasn't involved in an incident of some sort, right? That's just what he does. But yeah, look, I agree with Manny that I thought Sergio Ramos didn't cover himself in glory. Really, it wasn't his finest hour and a half, but still, obviously, a top class centre half could for me still play at a very high level in Europe as well. So great to see him coming to North America. But yeah, Denny Bouanga, as we were on that subject, just absolutely sensational. I think the only question now with Denny Bouanga is how long does he stay? Because there is interest. Handful of European teams have essentially gone on record and said that we're looking. And so that would be a devastating blow if he were to leave LAFC and for Major League Soccer. But perhaps there's a return to Liga on the cards. I just hope he stays in Major League Soccer because he's been great. I did an LAFC game recently, and his numbers are absolutely staggering. And so we obviously want to keep those kind of players in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's really fun to watch when he's not going up against your team, when he's not making impactful runs and impactful moves at Allianz Field. He's fun to watch. Elsewhere across All-Star weekend, we saw, or All-Star week, I guess, Michael Boxall get 45 minutes, Dane St. Clair get 30 minutes, the two Loons All-Stars there. The skills challenge, Evander, Manny, is incredible to watch. I mean, up there in the MVP race, but the show he put on during that entire event, that was a really fun thing to watch throughout the evening on Tuesday.
Yeah, full disclosure, I did not. I watched the highlights of them, so I saw the highlights.
You missed one heck of a show.
I heard it was really fun. It's great to hear some of the programming and adding in different players and Lindsay Heaps and Dempsey. All of that I heard was great connection. I just want to go back to, like I said, the All-Star game, it was really fun to watch Boxall and Dane acquit themselves very well. I thought both looked sharp and solid in the game. It was fun to see, particularly in the first half. Both of them I thought had good moments. So that part you're always a little bit nervous when your guys are representing the All-Star game, but they did a great job. It was super cool to see them represent the club and the crest. So that's cool. I'll let you guys talk about the skills challenge. I didn't watch too much. I just saw the highlights of Evander. He looked amazing. He looked sharp in the game last night too. So it's probably he's in good form right now.
I forgot one note I have to add on to the MLS All-Star game conversation. Unless I missed it because there's kids running around getting towards bedtime on our end. Unless I missed it, Nico Estevez not having Michael Boxall come up for a long throw in deep inside the MLS half. What are we doing? What are we doing? This has been one of the keys and highlights for Minnesota all season long is those long throws by Boxy, and you have him on the field for 45 minutes and you miss out.
I don't understand that. Didn't get it at all. But here's a question I have for you two, though, and apologies, Johnny, from a broadcasting perspective, I'm all over the place here. We're running short on time.
We're good. That's where the show is. We don't care. Yeah, go where you want to go.
Let me ask you guys, because I was having, as sad as I am, was having this debate with myself the other day, because one does that when you do a lot of travelling. Is this, and given how well he's done for the club over his time in Minnesota, is this the best year that Michael Boxall has had in a Minnesota United shirt?
Ooh. Well, that's a good debate question there.
I spent a long time, far too long on my flight, just going back and forth.
I would say 2019 when they had when him and Ike Opara paired up for a really good defensive pairing, that's up there. I don't think he's been, I don't know. That's a really good question because 2019 was so good for him and Ike. That partnership there was great. But the ability to impact and influence the game on these set pieces, we're counting long throws at this point as set pieces. He's never had that. He's never been asked to do that. So it's fun to see him add that into his game at this point in his career. I think this has been the most impactful he's been, despite what he did in 2019, Manny.
Yeah, I think I would say it's 2019 or this year. And I think this year's more about, like you said, not maybe just the level on the field, partly because they're in a back three, so it's a little bit harder to assess it. But the other piece is like the set piece part. And there's been a leadership quality that's come through this year that you can see. He's got that maturity level that has just exploded. So, it's been 10 years of just amazing service to the club. Great question, Cal. What'd you come up with, Cal? I mean, you're in your own internal debate.
I ended up not coming to a conclusion.
Basically what we just did, kind of, yeah.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, I think the words that we use in this kind of debate are really crucial. And Johnny used a really good word in the word impactful, because it's all good doing your job and being as good as your job as a defender, but actually having an impact on different areas of the team, I think, is the interesting part of the debate. It's like, okay, well, if he's having an impact on the team, does that mean he's a better player? Does it mean he's a better player if he's just doing his job? So it's a debate that we could very well go on and talk for another hour about. So we better not. But anyway, I just thought I wanted to bring that up,
But I think it's really, like I said, and again, I'm going to, we'll move on from talking about Dane and Boxy, but in their own way, it's great to have two players representing the All-Star game. It's showing how well the team's done this year. Dane is now solidified as the #1 goalie for Canada. Boxy is like, I'm so excited for next year because, we have our 10-year MLS celebration, and you've got this guy who's just been through everything for the club, and he's been everything. And so we're debating it, which is great, Cal. I love it. So I think it's important.
Yeah, he's been really fun to watch this season, and the impact he's had on this club. Quickly, before we get into the Portland match, reviewing that one, MLS notes from the weekend, El Tráfico, a 3-3 draw. Plenty of fireworks, as we all expected, Manny. It couldn't end in just a boring match. It couldn't just end in LAFC running away with it. LA Galaxy had to come back, fight back, claw back, and
Cal, I've got a question for you because, John, you're it's the best. Kind of,
it is what it is.
Rivalry name. It definitely is. But are they paying off these games to be this amazing? Like, honestly, like every time, like this should not be this close. LAFC should have killed them.
Yeah. I don't know, but it's great entertainment, isn't it? And by the way, I get the feeling, and I'm happy to be wrong, but I get the feeling there are very few leagues around the world that could provide this type of entertainment with two teams that are so far in separation in the table as well. Because you're right, it should have been essentially straightforward for a team like LAFC when you're looking at it from a roster comparison and a form comparison as well. But this is why I think we all love Major League Soccer so much, is the unpredictability of it. I have friends overseas who often ask about, first and foremost, like, what's the standard and who should I be betting on? And I say, well, I can't tell you who you should be betting on because that's against contractual obligations. But if I could tell you, I would say don't, because there's no guarantees in Major League Soccer. You just never, ever know. The amount of games that we've gone into this year, and I've thought to myself, well, this team X, should do this quite comfortably. They're at home. They're in much better form. They've got better players. And they lose 3-0 at home. It's just insane. But this is why we love Major League Soccer, because of its unpredictability. It's wonderful.
Elsewhere across the Western Conference, San Diego, Vancouver, a battle of the top two teams in the West. Draw 1-1 on the evening, leaves the door open for the Loons as we move into that part of the discussion. Now, Minnesota, Portland at the weekend, 1-1. Plenty to talk about here, Manny, but I want to go right to the end of this match, continuing to work in reverse chronological order as we have been all day. There's going to be disappointment with how the game ended, obviously. Giving up the late goal. You get a point on the road. What's your opinion on the question in the rundown? Should the Loons be happy with their point here, or should there still be some lingering disappointment that you were 2 minutes away from seeing out a big 1-0 road win in Portland, a tough place to play, as we've already discussed on the podcast?
Well, I think both can be right. I think in this case, it's now you're deep enough into the season where we've officially given up some tough leads or tough potential wins or drop points. But a couple things I would say right away. I'd say 85% of the teams in the league aren't having leads to give up, especially on the road. B, they're not usually losses; they've been ties. And we still have time now to kind of build out on that. And I would say the Portland one was a little bit unique in that we really played well. I mean, we really showed that we looked like the better team. We looked more organized. We looked more structured. They didn't have any waves of attacks or a lot of chances. We just couldn't quite have our habits like, guarding the far post, closing down correctly where you get guys head down, getting that line a little bit higher. I'm talking about one very specific moment in the play, and they had the chance right before that off the crossbar. But other than that, I felt like we controlled most of the game. So to me, it's one of those ones where I don't gloss it over. I think there's a reality that the next phase for this team is to kind of think about how do we close game out. That can be a lot of things. That could be more possession at the end of the game, better decision making. That could be better subs coming in that are hungry to like really fight to make sure we're focused for the 90 plus minutes. But ultimately, I thought really tough environment. It was rocket in Portland. They had a lot of celebrations going on, some of the coolest tifo I've ever seen. And I thought we came in and did a good job handling all that. It was another one where I'm so impressed with the team's ability to go away this year and get results.
Yeah, it was a really fun game to watch from a lot of different aspects. But the question now is how does the team get over the hump of finding a way to close out these games? Because that's become the question now around this team, regarding this team, Manny, is what do they need to do? It's no longer about whether you can control games with as little possession as they have, because I think they've settled that debate. They found ways to really impact games and control games from the positions that they sit in on the field and how they play. It's now just about closing out these games, and that's been the biggest question. We heard Eric Ramsey talk about his frustrations in seeing out or dropping points late again. This feels like, and the stats show it out, it has happened a lot this season, but as you pointed out, it's draws instead of losses, so you have that at least going for you right now. But what's the key for closing out these games and seeing out wins instead of seeing out draws on the road, Manny?
Well, you're going back to me, not going to Cal. Okay, Jonathan. No, I think I just said it. It's a little bit more. I think you've got to understand that there's things that are individual and group oriented that you have to get better through the season. This is one where I'm excited for the group to try to get better at, because ultimately, like I said before, a lot of teams don't even have this kind of first world problem where they're having leads in games away on the road. We're a very small percentage of teams that tend to not be losing a lot and not behind, and we tend to be winning, particularly on the road in the second half. So I look at it differently. A couple weeks ago, the Red Bull one, I thought there was waves of attacks that we were struggling to get our lineup and keep possession. This one was a little bit different. I still felt like we handled the game really well, and just now there's like individual and group habits at the very end. Like we're talking like 2 or 3 minutes of just mental focus. So whether that's, guys like pushing each other to stay focused, or whether that's, Eric working on just a little bit of habits at the end of the game, guarding the far post, closing down and getting the guy's head down, getting that lineup in a second phase, things that we do really well against other teams, by the way. But we get to work on that. Ultimately, that if we want to become a really good team, it's easier to kind of identify if these are the small areas that help. I'm excited about that. I'm not negative. I'm saying this is a positive time in the season that we can work on these little things, become maybe close to the top of the West, to maybe get to the top of the West, is because of those little areas. Now we can work as a group to get better.
Yeah, it's an interesting game to go and discuss, Cal, because it was once again a game where they had sub 40% of the possession, but they felt like the better team, as Manny pointed out. They did a better job of, I guess, taking away the ball in really key spots and getting up the field. They just couldn't find a way to convert on those breakaway chances. And this has felt like not the struggling to get in on score, but like taking away the ball in key spots and being really good defensively, not having a whole lot of possession, but making their possession count, Cal. This has felt like this is the calling card for this team. From your perspective, on a guy who hasn't seen the Loons in person this season, watching them on TV, what's been your perspective of this Loons team this season?
Yeah, and so with regards to being fully transparent, I was doing New England Revolution on Saturday, so I didn't see as much of the Minnesota game that I would want to. But from what I did see and what I have seen over the course of the last year or so, the team have developed into a very, very good counter-attacking team. Possession doesn't appear to be a major priority, and that's okay. The one thing that I think that they could do with, and maybe Manny is working on it at this very moment, who knows, but I think they could perhaps do with a little more creativity from the centre of midfield. I think the stat is something along the lines of Minnesota are in the bottom quarter in terms of chances created from that sort of area of the field, and I understand why, because a lot of emphasis is on the wing backs to provide service, and especially when you're playing two centre forwards as well, you lose a player in the centre of midfield. But Pereira, I think, is very good, but I just think there needs to be a little more from that area of the field, and I don't know if that's something that is going to be addressed, but if there's any area where the club, I think, could do with some improvement, it would be in that area. And I thought, again, that was evidence from what I saw against Portland Timbers just a few days ago.
I think it's a fair comment, fair assessment of just whether it's to create chances or even just keep possession late in the game. You got to have guys who are really clever and hungry to do that little extra bit, or have that quality to keep the ball moving.
And once again, on Saturday, Manny, it was Marcanic doing it again, scoring as he continues to do week in and week out on the second phase of a set piece play, which has been so key for the Loons this season. He continues to impress, I believe, coming off the bench this time and really making an impact late in this match. And at the time looked like the winner. Unfortunately, it wasn't, but he continues his magical season.
Yeah, my other sport was basketball. And I can tell people, yes, it's a sport for tall people. And if you're tall, you have a better chance. But that doesn't mean everything, particularly in rebounding. I love when little guards get in there and rebound, or people who have great timing, or, if you don't box out, which means essentially you go find the guy and you put your body to him to not allow him to go rebound. And, Anthony's unbelievable. It is straight up now official that he is lights out in the box. He is somebody, at your own peril, if you don't know where he is, you're in big trouble, because he will go find the ball, and not only go find it, but he's got the technical ability and the hunger to just crush it. And he's done that with his right foot. He's done that with his left foot. And he certainly has done that numerous times now with his head. So I think in a weird way, he's taken the league by storm in terms of just like, guys, don't mark me fine, but I will find the ball in the box. I'm really good at it. I'm really hungry to go to the spaces where the ball is going to go to. And then he's lights out in terms of the technical finishing ability.
Cal, in your time of calling this league, going back to your Sporting Kansas City days, your Minnesota United days, now to MLS days, have you ever seen a run like this from someone who kind of hopped from team to team before finding his landing spot and just became a dynamite threat for his new club?
And not that I can think of right now. He's become a very important piece to Minnesota United. Wouldn't it be picturesque? Wouldn't it be a wonderful story as well, as if on Saturday over the week against St. Louis, if he were to score as well? I was given his connections to St. Louis. So,
by the way, they might be saying the same thing about Sang Vin right now.
Of course, yeah. I was just about to say that's we're writing the story of the contest here already, aren't we? That Marcanic is going to score, Sam Bin is going to score, maybe Padelford is going to score. Hopefully, there's another goal from a Minnesota player somewhere at least. But yeah, look, he's been great, and I'll be totally honest, I wasn't too familiar with him when I saw Minnesota had signed him. I'd done one or two St. Louis games, and he was on the roster, but wasn't making a major impact. And so it's great to see a player like that having the impact that he is now, and it just shows. Manny mentioned it brilliantly a little while ago that some players just mature and develop at different parts of their career, and we're seeing him do that now in fabulous fashion.
Look, Marcanic got the brace the last time Minnesota and St. Louis played. What's saying he can't up it? He's consistently upped his game every game this season. Why can't he get 3 on Saturday? Let's talk about that game. Minnesota, St. Louis.
Jonathan, I just want to give one more shout out to Portland and their, obviously that game, we talked about our game, but just watching it on TV, summer soccer, their tifo was unbelievable, celebrating 50 years of pro soccer. I think they had their 10-year MLS championship reunion. It was a lights out night. It got me excited, like Cal just mentioned, about how big this league is getting, how not only just the level on the field, but just these fan bases and environments. It's probably some of the best tifo I've ever seen. Again, I'm so proud of our environment in Minnesota, and I respect other people's environments that create something really special. And Portland, particularly on special nights like that, they knock it out of the park. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was another special night, another physical night, because we talked about going into that match how this is kind of a low-key rivalry between these two teams, and the physicality, the aggressiveness, the aggression was there on Saturday. Did not disappoint in that department. We're running short on time. My bad as a host, not keeping us on track. So Minnesota, St. Louis, this coming Saturday, two teams in very different spots this season, Manny. We've seen these two teams play each other twice already this season. I know you're big on sweeping or not getting swept. How do the Loons go 3 for 3 against St. Louis this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, obviously, we got to use the reality that I think we're better in the table. Have been the better overall team all year. And we've got to figure out how to play well. And I think if we play well, we win this game, away. And I don't always say that away because it's tough to win away, but they're kind of in a bad run right now. They had a tough loss last weekend. So to me, it's really about us, showing that we can play against a team on the road that's lower in the standings and make sure we walk off with 3 points. And I think Klaus is somebody to keep an eye on always. He's been tough on us. He's great in the air. He scored a couple goals against us. Berkey is somebody that I always love watching live. He's been a legend in goals. So for me, you feel like it's a trap game. It is. Whatever you want to say, we've got to figure out a way to walk off the field with the win.
Yeah, it'll be an important game for Minnesota. Try and go 3 for 3 against St. Louis. Cal, what's the only thing keeping Minnesota from walking away with a win here in St. Louis?
I think there's a couple of things here, Johnny, and I think from a defensive perspective, you've got to limit the ball into the feet of Toyshirt and Marcel Hartl as well. Hartl, I think, has been one of the most underrated signings in Major League Soccer, particularly in the Western Conference, because when he gets going, I think he's fabulous. I did St. Louis a few times in Leagues Cup last year when he just arrived. They did a wonderful game between St. Louis and Club America in Los Angeles last year, and Marcel Hartl was by far and away the best player on the park. And so I think limiting the ball into him, as Manny quite rightly said, you would assume if you limit the ball to Hartl and co, it would limit the chances for Joao Klaus. But I think that the key area to watch is the wide areas and how Minnesota United utilise the wing backs, if indeed that's the way they go with it. I don't know why they would change things, but that's an area where I think St. Louis City will have to maybe even adjust. I don't think they're used to seeing that type of approach on a regular basis. And so if Marcanic plays, which again he's got every right to suggest that he should be in the 11. There'd obviously be an extra bit of motivation there, but I think the wing backs will play a massive role for Minnesota United once again, as they have done all season.
Yeah, I think you said it best. From St. Louis' side, and I think Hartl had a really good assist in the Open Cup against us, by the way. Clever dribbling, cut inside, great cross, and Klaus finished it. I think on our end, obviously, we have to be hopeful, and I am hopeful because Dugan's done such a great job. But with Romero and Joaquin Pereira out with yellow card suspension, it does present Eric with a little bit of a challenge of thinking about how he wants to replace those guys. And then if he wants to replace them, keep the same system, or if he wants to switch things up now that he's got Pereira and Romero out. But again, I'm pretty sure Morris, who had a really good game, I thought, last week in Portland, kind of slots in pretty easily there. I think the Pereira one becomes a little bit more difficult deciding how you want to replace that and how that affects the wing backs and forwards and system a little bit. But certainly overall some good challenges for Eric there. So, Jonathan, I don't know if you wanted to add to that at all. Am I missing any suspensions, or do you have any other thoughts on what Eric's going to do with those suspensions?
No, that was my big question is how does Eric Ramsey adjust without two of the key players? We've seen how Romero and Pereira have been so good for the Loons this season. It'll be very interesting to see how he moves and adjust to that. I know we're short on time. We've only got a couple minutes, so we'll close it out here. We've got plenty to discuss next week coming up on the show. We'll preview and review the first game in Leagues Cup. Plenty of games coming up starting next week. We've also got plenty to discuss with this game coming up on Saturday. 7:30 kickoff, 7 p.m. pre-match show with Dan Terrar and myself. Looking forward to this one, Manny. Cal, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you hopping in.
Cal, I've never seen Jonathan so rushed in a show, by the way. So somehow you and I just connected, and we made him feel rushed. So
he's got a heart out. He's got to go talk. He's got to go talk to another coach for a game that he's doing this weekend.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
real work.
I've got to head over. I'm doing the Red Bull Chicago game with Kindred D. St. Albin, by the way. I was listening. Right. So for those unaware, we're working together for the first time since the Minnesota days, so that should be good fun. Before I go, Johnny, just want to say, look, thanks very much for having me. Really appreciate it. Miss the Twin Cities so much. Can't wait to get back whenever that will be. But just a quick story before I go. I now work across the US. I work internationally. And there's so many people, when I talk to them from a footballing perspective, so many people ask about Minnesota United, and they speak about how wonderful the stadium looks, how amazing the fans are, and what it seems as though the culture in the Twin Cities is growing from a footballing perspective as well, where that's come from to where it's going. It's obvious. And I just want to say to everybody listening, that's you. Like, well done. That's you. This has just not come from out of the blue. This has not come from anywhere. This has come from Manny. This is you. Johnny, this is you. This is you listening on the podcast. Now, this is you. You know, you have created such a footballing force that has absolutely it has not gone unnoticed. There are people around world football that are looking at Minnesota United and looking at the football culture in the Twin Cities and praising it. So well done to everybody, because what you've created there is absolutely magnificent.
Appreciate it, Cal. Thank you. And we missed you. We missed you too.
One of the most requested guests, one of the most requested commentators for Minnesota United, Callum Williams. Appreciate you stopping by. Thanks to the production staff, Grace Dearson, Evan Entler, Kyle Hayward, for putting this on every week. Loons fans, we'll talk to you right back here next week.